Hi everyone, this is Random Chat and my name is Darren, and today I'm going to have a chat with you about a touchy subject for some people, and that is obesity. I don't know if you've been following what Labour has been talking about lately, but one of his subjects he has now brought up is obesity and how he wants to tackle it and relieve the burden on the NHS of all these overweight people with their illnesses and their ailments. One of the ways Keir Starmer wants to tackle this problem is apparently putting a ban on advertisement on our televisions. The ban will be that any advertisement of takeaway foods or anything related to obesity is going to be removed from our televisions and only shown after 9 p.m. This means companies who are advertising their products, such as McDonald's, Domino's Pizzas, and KFC, possibly will lose their prime time advertising. What this means is that Keir Starmer not only wants to control what we say online and how we say things online, he now wants to control what we watch on our television. But has Keir Starmer really thought this through very carefully? And what I mean by this is the fact that these companies are paying the television to put the advertisements on during peak times to gain maximum viewing. Now this costs a great deal of money to do so, and every time an advert is placed on the television, the company will pay a certain amount of money for each advert. So let's just say McDonald's are paying £1,000 an advert. It advertised 3 times on television per day. That's £3,000 a day. Basic mathematics. It's not hard to work out really, is it? So you imagine that over a week, then over a year, McDonald's is paying out a huge sum of money to advertise on our television just here in Britain alone. That means the company who's taken on the contract for the advertising will lose all that money. So the advertising companies clearly are paying a huge amount of tax to the government from all this income. Well, if Keir Starmer puts a ban on the adverts before 9 o'clock, he is taking a big chunk out of the taxman's pocket, out of his pocket. So I wonder if he's thought that one through. So clearly Keir Starmer hasn't really thought about the mathematics side on how much he's going to lose by putting this ban in place if it does happen. And no doubt Keir Starmer, if he succeeds, he will claim this war against obesity was his idea, despite the fact that Conservatives were talking about this before they lost power, and they've been discussing it for quite a few years now. Being Labour, they will claim it's their idea. They haven't been known in the past to steal Conservatives' policies and ideas in the past, so it's nothing new for them to take on something that's not really their idea in the first place. So if Keir Starmer does put this ban in place on adverts before 9 o'clock related to anything as fast food, does this mean then he would be targeting next who can be seen on television before 9 o'clock? And what I mean by this is there are quite a number of curvy ladies being advertised on our televisions these days. You've only got to look at Ready Steady Cook with the presenter. She's quite a big girl on there. Will she be a victim of Keir Starmer by saying she's too big to be on television before 9 o'clock? And there are quite a few adverts these days showing curvy ladies, which I have no issues with. But clearly Keir Starmer does have issues with people that has a few curves. So will he be banning women and men of a certain size before 9 o'clock on television at some point in the near future? I know this might sound a bit extreme, but anything goes with Keir Starmer, it seems. And one of the reasons why Keir Starmer has decided he wants to do this is to help take the strain off the NHS. He wants to reduce the amount of obesity illnesses. And the NHS are backing this because they are saying that obesity is causing a great deal of problems, illnesses and diseases. Now, for the NHS to point this out is quite ironic really, and in one aspect quite hypocritical. And why I say this is because a few months ago when I went to see my doctor regards to my injury to my leg that I had 2 years ago, I saw a triage nurse who clearly was obese. He waddled in, sat in the chair. He probably hasn't seen his penis in I do not know how many years unless he stands over a mirror. And this is a person that was a triage nurse working for the NHS. So when the NHS are saying obesity is a problem, surely they should start looking within their own house first about the issues of obesity, because this guy was quite large. And I'm only pointing this out is because the NHS are also pointing out obesity is an issue. The other point I would like to point out, has anyone visited a hospital lately? How many nurses do you see when you go into a hospital that can be classified as being obese? Quite a few of the nurses in Bath Hospital are classified as being overweight, so they would be put in the category of being obese. So this is why I think it's a bit hypocritical for the NHS to turn around and say obesity is a problem when they have quite a few of their staff who are clearly overweight. So before the NHS starts pointing the finger at you and saying obesity is a problem, maybe they need to sort out their own house first and start insisting some of their staff goes on diets and set an example. You can't wave the finger and say eating the wrong foods is bad for you when you have overweight nurses and overweight orderlies. And we hear it all all the time we should be eating more healthier, eating better quality food, eating less takeaways, and spending the time preparing a decent meal and eating healthier and eating the right things. And this is not just coming from people such as the NHS, it also comes from the government. They will point this out also. Now that's all good and well if you're on a good wage, but with the cost of living and the way it's rising, people cannot afford to buy all the healthy, decent stuff, all the luxury foods. So people, unfortunately, have to buy what they can afford. And if the only products they can afford is not classified as healthy, but that's not down to the person's fault, is it? That's down to the government and how they keep raising the cost of living. There is also the other aspect that you can look at, and that is we are working more hours each week, longer days. Some people having to work more than 5 days a week to just survive in this country. So the vast majority of the people in this country don't have the time to prepare luxury meals. So it's easier and quicker just to buy ready-made stuff and just stick it in the microwave for some people. So buying ready-made meals and things like that, you just pop in the microwave, which is basically full of crap half the time. It's quick and easy. The last thing you want to do is, if you've been working a very long day, is come home and want to spend a couple of hours in the kitchen preparing a very healthy meal. And the only problem is people like Keir Starmer and any other politician doesn't seem to understand this. They seem to think because they can live a healthy life, then you too can do it. Because they can afford it, you too also can afford it. Because they've got staff to do it for them, then clearly you have the time to prepare it also for yourself. People like Keir Starmer do not live in the real world. So it's okay for people to point out obesity is a problem in this country, but also the cost of healthy living is an issue within this country. The fact that people are now working harder and longer just to survive in this country and have very little time to do anything for themselves is also a problem in this country. If Keir Starmer and the NHS wants to deal with the problem of obesity in this country, then maybe they're going to have to start making arrangements for things to be more affordable, bring the cost of living down so we can afford to buy the stuff that we are so-called meant to be eating. Don't overtax us to the level we cannot afford to pay our bills, then we don't have to work so many hours just to survive. So we will have time to prepare these luxury meals, these healthy meals that we are so-called meant to be eating. So maybe there are problems there that Keir Starmer and the NHS need to look at, instead of pointing the finger and saying, you are eating the wrong foods, that's why you are fat. It's not the case we're eating the wrong foods, we're eating the food we can afford. And yes, there are some people who do indulge. But at the end of the day, it's your life. You live it how you want to live it. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, does it really matter? Who has the rights to dictate to you what you can and can't eat? Who has the rights to dictate to you what you should look like? As I said, at the end of the day, as long as you're not hurting anyone, does it matter? And if you gain a few pounds and people don't like what they see, well, you don't have to look at that person, do you? No one's forcing you. I think we just live in a society now where people think they know better for us and want to dictate and tell us what we can and can't do. More so under a Labour government, we are under a control, under a dictatorship. It's already been pointed out that Keir Starmer is clearly acting under Marxist ruling. So what are your views on all this? Do you think Keir Starmer has a right to ban what we see on television these days? I can understand banning offensive stuff, violence, sexual scenes, promotion of hatred before 9 o'clock. Yes, fully agree with that. But controlling what adverts we watch, has he not gone a bit too far by wanting to do that? So drop some comments on your views on what you think about the issue of obesity. And will banning adverts on television be a result of a cure, so to speak, in Starmer's eyes for it? Do you also think that the NHS needs to pull their socks up a little bit and start looking at their own staff before they start wagging the finger and pointing it at you, saying you need to lose weight when you have an overweight nurse that's telling you to do it, or an overweight doctor? Or do you think it's just the fact that people are now trying to control what we do, what we think, what we wear, what we look like, what we eat? And to end this video, I want to just tell you about two people, two totally opposite people, which could relate to what I'm talking about. Used to be a guy who lived in Melksham, a town that I used to live in. He had run a couple of marathons. He had run the London Marathon once or twice. He had done the Chippenham Half Marathon on a regular basis, and he would go out and do a jog in the morning and a jog in the evening. Extremely healthy person, very fit, very conscious of what he ate. In his mid-50s, his daughter found him dead in his house, sat in his chair. He had a heart attack. Here was an extremely fit person, an extremely healthy person, living a healthy life, died of a heart attack. Now, the complete opposite. As a child, I knew this family, who were quite big. The father was about 26 stone. Definition of exercise was getting in and out of his van. He was a very large chap. He would drink a litre of scotch per day. He would smoke 100 cigarettes per day. If he ordered a Chinese takeaway, he would have to have 2 for himself. This guy was definitely classified as being obese. In later years, he was told to cut down on his drinking and his smoking, so he cut down to half a litre of scotch per day and only 60 cigarettes a day. This guy in his 60s eventually passed away of a brain tumour. Nothing linked with smoking, nothing linked with the alcohol, nothing linked with being obese. He just had a brain tumour. So my point here is that a guy who was obese only died of a brain tumour. A guy who was totally extremely fit dies of a heart attack. You work it out for yourself. Are overweight people unhealthy and unfit? Or is it just a case of if your time's up, your time is up? What do you think? That's my random chat over on what Keir Starmer's been talking about recently. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Feel free to drop some comments. Let me know what you think about what I've said today. And that's it until the next video. So thank you for watching and bye for now. See you again soon, guys.